Thank you so much for staying with us. All Angles continue. So how do we resolve tensions in the public health system? We're going to be talking to our guest in studio, President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Manning. We have with us as well President of the Nurses Association, Carmen Johnson, medical doctor and Gleaner columnist, Dr. Garth Rattray as well, and the immediate past President of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, Dr. Ortrine Buchanan. Wait, before we go to them though, Kalisha Williams has a short overview.
The story first appeared in the Sunday Gleaner on November 10. Bust up at Bustamante. A clash between People's National Party councillor Kari Douglas and a medical doctor at the Bustamante Hospital for Children exploded into an expletive-laden tirade and a near brawl, triggering a shutdown of the accident and emergency unit for 2 hours. Since the story made headlines, there have been mixed reactions. Social media went into a frenzy. Some people defended Ms. Douglas's behavior, declaring that it speaks to a wider issue of poor customer service in the public healthcare system. However, the PNP condemned the behavior of their councillor.
Notwithstanding the circumstance, the conduct as was reported, we do not condone and we condemn that unreservedly.
Party Chairman Fitz Jackson also issued a statement declaring the party's intent to conduct its own inquiry into the incident with a view to determine an appropriate course of action. Senior medical officer at the hospital, Dr. Michelle Ann Dawson Richards, also had this to say about the councillor's case. She stressed the need for respect from users of the facility.
What takes precedence in an accident and emergency department are emergencies. We do have a triage system, which is scientific, which is based on your findings, and based on that, the emergencies are seen first and expedited. Urgent, and then non-urgent. What we ask is that the non-urgent cases seek care elsewhere because we do not have the capacity to run that type of service. We're also asking the Jamaican public to be respectful. I don't think that in Jamaica we resolve issues the right way. We resort to violence too easily, which is why we have such a high murder rate.
On Tuesday, Ms. Douglas apologized. She said in a statement that she unreservedly apologized for the aspect of her conduct where she entered the room where the medical practitioner was and stood in front of the door. Altercations at the Children's Hospital are not new. In fact, a parent smashed a window, injuring a clerk at the facility in 2017. And it's not just there. At the Kingston Public Hospital in 2014, a female nurse was attacked by a mentally ill man. During a protest outside the institution, nurses told the Gleaner that the attack was the latest example of disrespect and abuse they had been subjected to from users of the facility. For example, one declared that a patient told her,
"Wait till me get you outside and see what will happen to you."
On the other hand, over the years, patients and visitors have complained about the quality of service they received. Kalisha Williams for All Angles.
Thanks so much, Kalisha. Dr. Buchanan, wait, let me ask you, I know there's been a lot of discussion over the past few days. What are your members saying? Are people actually seriously concerned and worried about their safety?
We are, and we have always been. This is not the first instance of abuse, whether it be verbal or physical, against one of the physicians within the healthcare system. With regards to Bustamante, it's almost a weekly occurrence, and it's not just towards doctors, it's towards all medical staff within the hospital. And I think there has to be some point of us not tolerating it, of us taking a stance and saying we will not tolerate abusive behavior to the members of staff.
Nurse Johnson, I see you nodding.
That's true, because in October, around the 15th of October, our nurses had to pull themselves from the accident and emergency department at Bustamante because of the same challenge. And then again on the night of the 28th.
Meaning what when you say?
Because of the abusive behavior and the threats that were hurled at them from parents that took their children there. Again, it happened on the night of the 28th. And they were threatening and say, if my baby father comes there, it's not going to be like this. And so they had to pull themselves away from the A&E department. And just a couple months prior to that, stones were thrown at them in the A&E department. So it's an ongoing thing at Boston, not only at Boston. Mm-hmm.
Where do you find stone from?
Outside.
They go outside and bring in stones and throw at people?
At people. irrespective of who, they don't think whether or not it's going to hurt another patient. All they know is that they want to get at the staff member, and so they do what they want to do. So some persons are really, you wonder if they're really sane at the time when they're doing the things that they're doing. And it's not just at Bustamante. It's
But people
across
tell you, in
the
fact,
island.
they're not. They say, look, we come in, we're stressed, our babies are sick, and then I treat them like dirt. That's what people have been saying over the past few days. Dr. Manning, why you raise your eyebrows?
Well, I don't think any patient is treated like dirt. The
You've
system
been
is
reading
under.
Twitter? Read Twitter.
Well, I've worked in the real world, in the government health services for about 23 years. The system is under strain, but people have to remember that the doctors are also under strain. We try our best with limited resources, and I think the patients need to understand.
Let me ask you though, because let's assume that there are doctors and nurses who do try their best, who many of you I know go above and beyond. But it sounds as if I've never heard healthcare professionals acknowledge that some of your colleagues treat members of the public like dirt. They're rude, they're dismissive, they don't answer them, and they contribute to the rage that people feel. But why can't we acknowledge that?
But which doctors have said that? On Twitter?
You've
or
never heard complaints like that?
I've heard complaints.
Seriously?
Seriously, I really haven't come across one that said that the doctors treat patients like dirt. No, doctors are human, and I'm sure you have instances where the communication probably hasn't been up to scratch, and that's something that we all need to look at. But I think treating persons like dirt, that's a stretch.
Dr. Rattray?
Yes, ma'am.
You think it's a stretch?
Well, I've heard it.
You've heard the complaint?
Yes. In private practice, people come and they level with you. And their opinion is that the doctors and nurses are sometimes very aloof and not very caring. That's their opinion. But when you look at the situation they're under, the stress, this morning I call it controlled chaos. It's very difficult for people to be civil at all times. And it's reciprocated. So if a patient comes to you and they're aggressive and irate or upset and shouting, the mannerism, but communication, not just words, it's how you say it. They get a feedback that's not good. So I don't think the medical staff initiates that kind of behavior. I think it's a circumstance that they're working under, and everybody's just stressed out.
We give you a scenario, Dion, for you to better appreciate.
I'm just thinking.
No.
Go ahead.
Let me give you a scenario. You have a casualty department or outpatients department that sees 200 patients for the day. Within that outpatients department, you have 2 nurses and possibly 2 doctors. Or 2.5 doctors, because a doctor may do 4 hours and then leave to go elsewhere.
Right.
And so you have those 200 patients to be seen. Most of them come between 6 a.m. and 1 p.m. The worst word to use for any of the patient that comes in is the word wait. You say to them you'll have to wait, it's a bad word that triggers them. And so you have a system where there are 2 of you or 3 of you expecting to see that number of patients, do the vital signs for them. The patients are at you at a given time. We are going to break. And so you have had staff members who have broken because they're under pressure. The patient sits and every 5 minutes or 10 minutes they come to you. When will I be seen? When will I be seen? You're called for this emergency. You're moving here. You're moving there. Again, the physical space within which you operate. It is so limited where you have no space between individuals for infection control. Patients are always quarreling. Patients are always cursing. And so you're going to find out one of the things that with our health workers, they have gone silent, some of them. And they tell it's an effort to protect themselves because they chose not to answer the patient based on the fact that we say you are the trained one, know better to do. It's not good at all because we should be communicating with our patients. Sometimes you don't get to go to the bathroom, you don't get to have your lunch, and persons do break. I'm not going to say we have always been answering in the manner that we ought to. And so sometimes we are not always amiable as we ought to have been, because the system places us in that position.
Yeah, but you see, that's my issue. You explain that, you explain the stresses, but you acknowledge. But Dr. Manning and Dr. Buchanan don't seem to be acknowledging that at all.
No, I can only speak about my experience. Right? I've never practiced medicine on Twitter. Doc said patients come and live with him, they're giving their opinions. And everybody's opinion and description of a story comes from their point of view. But what is the issue here? Is it that you have some doctors who don't communicate in an appropriate way? Is it that you have some patients who respond inappropriately, or can we talk about the general ills in the system that perhaps lead to the problem?
Well, let's talk about that as well in the next. Go ahead.
Before we go to that, I think part of I don't want us to lose focus of the behavior that we experience and the abuse that we experience, and making excuses for the behavior. And I personally want to say, from our union point of view, if we get a complaint of a patient who was, if you want to say, maltreated by a doctor, we take that very seriously. And if complaints like that are made to us or to the hospital or institution that doctor works at, I know that those complaints are taken seriously, and there are repercussions for us as doctors if it is that a complaint is made against us and us treating patients like dirt, as you say, right?
Well,
but I don't know anybody.
Do you acknowledge, though, that, and I understand that in many times it's an effort to protect yourself, but do you acknowledge that there's a lot of callousness from health workers in the system?
I don't want to say that there is callousness.
You're kidding me.
I am not
You're
going to say that we are. No.
I think
we're not going. And
you have situations where persons.
I think Dion. I think it is that they misconstrue what may be seen as callous.
You will have a patient in a bed bawling out, nurse, me need help, nurse, and the nurse, I understand not being in pain and in the situation or watching my relative in pain, has a million reports and paperwork that must be finished and that can't be finished if you get up every minute. And the response is you can't come now, or you have to wait, or whatever. And there is no way a person in pain or watching their relative in pain does not see that as being callous.
To what extent, though? Do you have any other
that's what I'm saying. It is construed. Exactly, it is construed, but it is not.
We'll come back in a moment, and we're also going to be talking about the ills of the system and where we go forward. So stay with us. We'll soon come.